riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey, and with me, as always, assalamu alaikum to my alaikum salam, co-host extraordinaire, Timothy Richardson. Tim, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam to you, my friend. How are you this week?
Oh, you caught me off guard. I am doing well, I'd say. Boy, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. You never ask me that question.
Because I don't care.
What's up? Oh, probably because I answer like this.
Yeah, it's not interesting. You've prepared nothing.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Can I have a second take? I wasn't ready. Can I have a second take?
Absolutely not.
Wait, come on, man. Let me redeem myself.
Have something prepared, and then if I ask you, you've got something.
But you ask like twice a year.
Yeah, I prepare every week, Garrett.
And I ask every week.
Right.
Back to the episode at hand. Tim, how you doing, buddy?
Well, Garrett, I have some weird news this week.
Yeah, no shit. Welcome to the show.
As your personal and unlicensed physician, technically the information I'm about to reveal might constitute a HIPAA violation. However,
it definitely does. Do not violate my...
I cannot get more unlicensed, so it really doesn't matter. Garrett, you have scurvy.
Okay. Is this about the oranges again?
I don't know. I don't know how somebody gets scurvy in this day and age. I assume it's your all meat all the time diet. Your diet where you not only eat all meat, but you are also always eating meat. That's a pirate disease.
Yeah,
you have a pirate disease. Are you hanging out with pirates?
No. You've already tracked down the issue. Yes, I have an all meat diet, and equally as important that I always eat meat is that I am always eating. So yeah, through the entire episode, I am snacking on a beef jerky stick, always. Find the feed to enjoy me snacking on that delicious beef stick. But look, I've faced scurvy before, and I'm going to deal with it the same way I did last time. I'm going to ignore it.
You haven't been on any ships recently?
No. No ships. No boats. Well, okay, I was on does a restaurant shaped like a pirate ship count?
Absolutely not. That's just good fun.
What if it was not a restaurant?
Sounds like you were maybe on a pirate ship with some pirates.
Well, in my defense, I thought it was. I was shanghaied, Tim.
Okay.
I was shanghaied. Full disclosure. Did I have scurvy beforehand? Yes. Were my gums bleeding pretty heavily? Yes. But that's just because I refuse.
You chew on sticks you find in the park.
Looks like meat.
That's true. It does look like a beef stick.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, enough of this nonsense, Tim. We have very important things to get down to this week, and I just will not wait another moment. So let me ask it. What song have we been listening to for an entire week straight?
We have been listening to the song Cowboy Movie by the late great ? The late pretty okay David Crosby.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I might even go so far as to say late and what's the term for apologetic later in life?
And in the future, they will call it Crosbying.
Ah, yes. The late, great Crosbying. And Tim, after an entire week with Senor Crosby and his very odd song about cowboys, I'm super curious. Do you hate this song?
I don't. But it is not a song. And if it were, it would not be a good song. What about you, friend? Do you hate this song?
No, I don't. Yeah, you're right. It's not really a song, kind of a jam, but definitely not a song.
It is a jam. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but not a song. So I pretty much can't hate it. It just doesn't follow enough of the basic conventions of music for me to recognize it as a song. Also, it's adorable and weird and funny, but not for any reasons he meant it to be. I can't wait. Okay, before we talk about any of those things, I am curious, Tim, prior to this week, what's your experience with Mr. Crosby? And more specifically, had you heard this song before?
I must have heard this song before because I've heard this album before, but I have no memory of this song. I am steeped in Mr. Crosby's history, both legal and musical. I am a pretty huge Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young fan. I am a significantly less big, but still not a fan of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I like the Byrds, kinda. They're pretty good. I like their stuff, their Dylan covers. Yeah, to me, David Crosby is a great band member. He is a great George Harrison in the early Beatles. Mm-hmm. But he should not be trying to make an All Things Must Pass. That's not his role.
No, it isn't.
But on the whole, the music that David Crosby is associated with, I am more pro than anti on the whole. But it mostly doesn't. He's not the driving.
In spite of David Crosby.
No, it's not in spite of him. I think he does good work on it. I just don't think he's the driving force behind the stuff I truly enjoy.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Ironically, he always gets names first.
Yeah, they did it alphabetically, right? CSNY.
I have to take your word for it.
Garrett, have you heard this song before?
Boy, my history is similar to yours here, buddy. I had to have heard it. I've heard this album, but I have no discernible memory of it. And that's got to be because it's mostly not a song. It's definitely a jam, though. So, yeah, I've heard it. You actually, I think, are the one who suggested this.
Tom Brady is the one that actually suggested this.
Wait, former Buccaneers quarterback Tom Brady or Texas A&M graduate Tom B. Rady?
I'm sorry, Tom B. Rady. I misread it because it looks so goddamn similar to Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't know why he insists on the B. Right? That's weird.
And he doesn't put a period there either. So it just looks like he's capitalizing the R for no reason. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Anyway,
he was the one that
suggested
suggested
this. We're not here to talk about that, jackass. Boy, interesting stuff. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you sort of have a history. I don't want to repeat you entirely, Tim. Basically, everything Tim said, like minus 5%. I have never in my entire life sought out Crosby and Stills or Crosby and Nash. I think those are things.
I like Stephen Stills.
Yeah, I do too, but I've never once sought out a Crosby and Stills album.
I don't know that exists. I know Crosby and Nash exist.
I'm almost certain that's a thing.
Maybe. Probably.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know.
I don't want it.
No reason to know about it.
Absolutely. So that brings us back to the man at hand, Mr. Crosby. Now, I suspect there's going to be a significant portion of the history this week dedicated to the crimes of Mr. David T. Crosby. So let's get right down into it, Tim. Take us on a journey. Help us understand who is David Crosby and how did this very confusing song come to be?
Well, you are not incorrect, Garrett, and this may be our most interesting, our most well-researched, and our most well-told history to date. And I am, of course, including Garrett's solo casts. David Van Cortlandt Crosby is a goddamn Dutchman. And here's the thing, he's borderline Dutch royalty. Now, he himself was born in Los Angeles. However, his mother, April Van Cortlandt Whitehead, was the granddaughter of the Bishop of Pittsburgh, Cortlandt Whitehead, and a member of the Van Cortlandt family.
You could be a Bishop of Pittsburgh?
Yes, and you can also have children, apparently, in that role. Now, the Van Cortlandt family was a 17th century Dutch family that owned most of New York's Westchester County as a 1697 essentially gift by Dutch King William III. His father, on the other hand, Floyd Crosby, was descended from the Van Rensselaer family, an extremely prominent New York State family that owned essentially all of what is today Albany, where they had an estate of more than 1 million acres, and Herman Melville, namesake of Moby, was part of this family. The family is mentioned as an established New World family in Moby Dick, and Floyd Crosby himself was a well-respected cinematographer with more than 100 movies to his name, including Taboo, A Story of the South Seas, for which he won an Academy Award for Best Cinematography in 1931, 10 years before David was born.
This is thorough.
Yes, so this is the situation, though, that Mr. Crosby was born into. Oscar-winning Dutch aristocrats who were frequently featured in Big Apple society pages. I can only hope that he honors the rich tradition of his family.
I don't know if you've ever heard what happens to kids of very wealthy people. It's not usually great.
They continue the tradition. Dave was born in Los Angeles. He had an older brother, Ethan, who is also a singer-songwriter, but was kind of a recluse. More on him later. It's a tragic story. And Ethan inspired Dave's love of music, particularly jazz. Dave went to a bunch of schools in the very ritzy Santa Barbara, Montecito, Carpinteria area, and he performed in class plays and then went to Santa Barbara City College, which has a stadium that I really enjoy running stairs at, for drama before dropping out to pursue music. He had a kid in 1962 that he abandoned and put up for adoption.
Oh my God, what?
Yeah, just a little fun side note there.
God, you're never ready for the big A. Listeners, write in, hatepodmail@gmail.com. Were you adopted? I'm super curious. I had one friend growing up who was, and he had absolutely no interest whatsoever in meeting his biological parents. He was just like, they didn't want me. Why the fuck would I want them?
Fun fact, that kid's biological father, David Crosby.
It only makes sense. Keep going.
He performed with Terry Collier in Chicago and The Village, but no one liked it. He performed with Les Baxter's Balladeers in 1963, but also kinda meh. He performed with Jet Set as a bassist, but he was terrible at that, so they got a real bassist and made Crosby the rhythm guitarer, and then named themselves the Byrds in 1964. They got a really early copy of Dylan's Mr. Tambourine Man, a song that I made Garrett hate about a decade ago, and then did a cover that was really well received. About a decade ago, Garrett fell asleep while we were watching a documentary on the Newport Folk Festival, and Mr. Tambourine Man was played over the opening credits, but not really.
The DVD menu.
Right. It was played over the DVD menu, but only the first 30 seconds or so. And once he fell asleep, I left and just left that DVD menu playing the first 30 seconds of Mr. Tambourine Man for probably 8 hours as Garrett lapsed in and out of consciousness, angrier and angrier that this was still going on. And to this day, he hates Mr. Tambourine Man.
That is 100% how it happened. And what I don't understand is, what is it about a certain state of sleep where you can wake up just enough to be like, oh, I hate this, and then you're going back to sleep? I believe at least 2 people on the show right now recently awoke to discover they had food poisoning only to go back to sleep and deal with it later.
That's true.
It dealt with us.
Yes. The Byrds basically decided to be a Dylan cover band and then a more general cover band for their first 2 albums. Those were released on Columbia Records after they were signed to Columbia Records on the recommendation of Miles Goddamn Davis.
God, I like the idea of you calling them a cover band.
They were.
Did they really only do covers?
I mean, it was like the early Beatles before they started recording shit. Or, frankly, the first Dylan's album. The Byrds were immediately and really immensely successful in the mid-1960s. Again, mostly for popularizing songs written by other people, including Hey Joe pre-Hendrix. But slowly they started writing their own songs. They played at the Monterey Pop Festival, and the rest of the band was pretty annoyed when Crosby just started spouting a bunch of JFK assassination conspiracy theories and other political rants between songs. He then sat in on Buffalo Springfield's set in place of Neil Young after Neil Young quit Buffalo Springfield. And
at the festival.
Right. And worst Buffalo Springfield set ever. That is not a good trade. There was more intra-band conflict later in that festival and also on their next album. Essentially, Crosby just got kicked out.
Yeah. Running gag, everybody.
Yes. Instead of the Byrds, he gave Grace Slick his Menage a Trois ode Triad for Jefferson Airplane's album Crown of Creation, and then started jamming with Stephen Stills and Graham Nash, recently from Buffalo Springfield and the Hollies, respectively, forming CSN. Their second live performance was at Woodstock. Pretty cool. The debut CSN album was an immediate hit, and then they picked up Neil Young and became the indisputably superior CSNY. They released the #1 album Deja Vu, and then Crosby's girlfriend was killed in a car wreck. So he began doing drugs way more heavily.
As you do.
Yes. CSNY also performed at Altamont in 1969, and I think that Crosby, he is the only person to have performed at Monterey, Woodstock, and Altamont.
That's,
I think,
very strange. Man, I really thought you were going to go a different way with the Altamont thing. I thought you were going to be like, and I think something else happened there, but I don't know.
Yeah, Crosby stabbed a guy. In 1970, Crosby was briefly in the band David and the Dorks, with a single live album to their name that had Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, and Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead fame kind of backing him.
Oh, so this album.
This song, yes. CSNY released Four-Way Street, which, if you haven't heard, go seek that out. It's really goddamn good. In 1971, they basically broke up to focus exclusively on solo work. In 1971, Crosby released If I Could Only Remember My Name, with a ton of guest stars and the Song of the Week on it. Crosby and Nash released Another Stony Evening in 1971. No one wants that. Crosby was a backing vocalist for Jefferson Airplane and Hot Tuna-related projects. And then CSNY reunited in 1973 and 1974 to tour. They failed to make a new album, but they did release a greatest hits compilation So Far. It was called So Far. are.
Right.
Yes. In 1976, they were going to make a new CSNY album, but Neil Young and Stephen Stills decided they hated Crosby and Nash and their respective vocals, and so they just removed them from the mix and released Long May You Run as a Stills Young Band one-off. Pretty hilarious.
I wonder if they told anybody.
No, they did not until it came out. It was pretty fucking great.
A bit of a running gag in the 70s. People would record entire albums with another person and then it'd be like, I hate that. Don't tell them, but I'm taking them off all the songs.
Yeah, specifically Neil Young. Neil Young would do this.
He did. I guess we call that crazy horsing. Although I guess this would have come before that.
Oh, yeah. In the 1980s and 1990s, Crosby played with Phil Collins and David Gilmour quite a bit. In 87, he got married at the Hollywood Church of Religious Science. I don't know if he was actually in that cult, but...
Is that Scientology?
It is not. It is a different thing. It is a different cult in Hollywood.
God, it makes me want to reopen the West Coast headquarters and just see who we can get.
It was raccoons. We attracted many, many raccoons. It was horrible.
He just kept leaving out all that raccoon feed.
In my defense, it was salami. I don't know why it doesn't matter. CSNY did then reunite at Live Aid in 1985, so he played Monterey, Woodstock, Altamont, and Live Aid.
He's the fucking Forrest Gump of music festivals.
He absolutely is. He's kind of the Forrest Gump of music. That same year, Crosby decided to spend 9 months in a Texas prison for heroin, cocaine, and gun possession charges.
I don't think he decided to. Agreed to?
He agreed to, yes. Later that year, he was arrested in California for drunk driving, hit and run, possession of a concealed pistol, and drug paraphernalia possession.
Just open one backpack and all that happens.
It's a thing. I don't want to spoil the end of this story, but if you're currently cleaning out the late David Crosby's house and you come upon a bag, or no, even more so, if you come upon a yellow shoebox,
just throw it away.
Throw it away. Do not open it or mail it to this studio. I've got some use for some of the stuff in there, and I know what's in there because I put it there.
Wow, I don't know where this is going.
Crosby performed with CSNY and did full tours sporadically with CSN, doing more consistent work with them. They released CSN in 1977, Daylight Again in 82, American Dream in 88, Live It Up in 1990, After the Storm in 1994, Looking Forward in 1999, and Crosby and Nash in 2004. Nobody wants that.
Oof, yeah, nobody.
Backing up a little bit, in 1994, Phil Collins bought him a brand new liver, which he needed due to Hep C. Now,
what?
If you look over in the corner, Gino and Tom are snickering like assholes. I'm not saying that's a fun fact. And why are you two friends now?
Yeah, I don't love that teaming up. I've seen a lot of Tom lately. He seems to have a lot of time on his hands. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, Tom and Gino are real Crosby and Nash.
Yeah, they're just not a whole bunch of also-rans. That's right, Tom. I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Now, this new liver generated controversy because, again, he's got Hep C and that thing's just going to get infected again. Also, people don't like it when alcoholics and drug addicts get new organs.
Yeah, do you know where he got it?
Phil Collins. Wait. He skipped the line. Phil Collins paid for him to get to the front of the line and then also paid for the liver.
How do you do that now?
You got money. You know Phil Collins. Do you need a new liver? Let's talk to Phil Collins.
Interesting. Phil Collins is not in good shape. He might need a new liver.
Interesting.
Well, even Steve Jobs had to move to Tennessee. He basically was like, who's got the shortest list? And so he set up residency in the state with the shortest list.
I was completely unaware of all of that.
Didn't you read his book? Or not his book. It's good, but it'll make you pissed. That guy's a monster.
Yeah, well, I knew that.
Yeah, that's how he got, I think he was a liver as well.
Maybe. I mean, it was pancreatic cancer, but, well, it wasn't neuroendocrine tumor. You could have been fine.
Oh, yeah, just don't, cure it with fruit.
Yeah, cure it with a relatively minor surgery. David Crosby estimated that he spent $25 million on drugs in his lifetime, mostly on his massive addictions to cocaine and heroin.
Let's do some math. $25 million. Let's say he was addicted to cocaine and heroin for 10 years? 15.
Let's say 25. That makes the math easier.
25. Okay. Well, $1 million. All right, 25. 25 years, and let's see. A heroin habit, we'll average it, we'll say a healthy heroin habit is $100 a day.
Oh, you're going way low. You look at some of
Okay.
those people on intervention, they're in the thousands.
That's true. All
And
right,
especially
we'll
you think David Crosby, he's going to be getting some good heroin. And
oh,
cocaine.
sure. But probably wholesale.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he's probably not going to the dealer twice a day.
Yeah, it's just nickel and dime stuff. Hopefully he's buying by the kilo. All right, well, let's average $1,000 a day for 25 years. Well, that makes it pretty easy. What is that? Let's see, 365 times 25 times 1,000. That's still only $9.1 million.
All right.
So much. Because here's the thing. When I read that number, my first instinct isn't, oh, David Crosby must be way off. I'm way off.
Yeah. Well, you also have to double it because you're only factoring in heroin, and he's doing heroin and cocaine. So that pops it up to 18.2, assuming your math was correct, which I have not checked.
It was.
In 1996, he formed Crosby, Pevar, and Raymond.
No, he didn't.
They
What are you
released
talking
2
about?
studio albums and 2 live albums, including the song Morrison, about a time that Crosby watched the film The Doors. We probably should have done that song.
Crosby, Pervez Musharraf, and Nash. What is this band?
It was Crosby, Musharraf, and Ray Romano. Yeah, I think. In
Former Prime Minister of
Pakistan.
Pakistan.
He died
Former
recently.
Yeah, he did. Not how I guessed he would either.
No, grenading.
No, he wasn't grenaded, was he?
No, he wasn't. In 1997, Ethan, David Crosby's brother, committed suicide, although it might have been in 1998 because he was not found for months. He just went missing. And he also left a note saying, "Please don't look for me. Please don't find my body. I would like to return to the earth." But then they found him and prevented his return.
Do you know where he was?
No, I don't. Probably the ocean. In 2000, it was announced that he had donated sperm twice to Melissa Etheridge and Julie Cypher because apparently they wanted their children to look like David Crosby.
Very confusing.
Get a little Cros in there. In 2004, he was charged with criminal possession of a hunting knife, a gun, and drugs after he, I guess, abandoned his suitcase in a Big Apple hotel. And they needed to find out whose it was, so they searched it and came upon his, and I'm using Garrett's term here, stash.
Yeah, that was his stash.
In 2012, Crosby and Nash worked on a John Mayer album. I don't really know anything about that. In 2014, he released the solo album Cross. In 2015, he settled a $3 million lawsuit for a separate time he hit a driver with his silent and deadly Tesla. I've been there. Now, the lawsuit claimed he was drunk. Crosby claimed he was blinded by the sun. No handgun was found in that particular incident.
He may have driven off.
Yes. Also in 2015, Nash announced that CSN would not perform again because he hated David Crosby. He said, "Crosby, Stills, and Nash will never play another note together. I just don't like Crosby. I can't make music with him. It's done. It's over." Crosby then released Lighthouse in 2016 with some producers he met over Twitter. He released Sky Trails in 2017. And then, as Garrett was alluding to, he had some problems with Neil Young, or most recently over insulting Daryl Hannah, and Neil Young has basically refused to speak to him since. In 2019, Cameron Crowe made a documentary called David Crosby, Remember My Name. At some point in here, he had 3 heart attacks and some pretty severe diabetes. Due to his health issues and some COVID restrictions / cancellations and not being able to tour, he was pretty much broke, also because he spent all that money on cocaine. He said, "I'm going to lose my home. I don't have any savings. I won't be able to rent. I won't be able to make the mortgage." But then, Garrett, he sold his entire catalog to Iconic Artists Group, so he probably had a couple $1 million. I don't know how much people are buying David Crosby's music for, but
God, it's got to be like 40 million.
that seems high.
Yeah, but you got to imagine that somebody, I mean, shit, we played it a bunch this week.
That's true.
And our throngs, our tens of thousands of listeners, they're going to be queuing it up.
That's fair. In 2020, he decided he was probably going to die fairly soon and started planning his funeral. He stated publicly that he wanted to reconcile with the Byrds and CSNY bandmates because he wanted them, and this is terrifically sad, to attend his funeral.
Oh.
Yeah. In January 2023, he caught COVID, and then on the 5th day of having COVID, he went to take a nap one day and just never woke up.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should all be so lucky.
Yep. Neil Young publicly said some nice things after his death, and lots of people that knew him all kind of said we should focus on the music he made instead of the off-putting person that he was. But Garrett, I choose not to remember him as the drug addict, not the insane criminal, not the hit-and-run artist, not the alienating jackass, not even the guy that wrote the classic Almost Cut My Hair. Garrett, I think we should remember him as Lionel Hutz's AA sponsor. When Mr. Hutz was tempted to drink that delicious bourbon, brownest of the brown liquors, his comforting words to Troy and to all of us were, just take it one day at a time and know that I love you.
Oh, we will miss you, Troy McClure.
Yes, we will miss you, David, and way more importantly, we will miss you, Phil Hartman LaFace.
And a hearty shalaby to you. Good job, Tim. Great history. Lots of fun and exciting facts. Honestly, you could probably have taken twice as long. I appreciate the healthy editing. And that brings us to the song itself. Before we can really talk about it, let's get a taste. Gino, load it up. Ladies and gentlemen, David Crosby, Cowboy song. Play the tape, you Italian psycho. Huh, so that's something.
Yeah, he's backed on here by the Grateful Dead, so this is basically a David and the Dork song.
Does that happen often?
Yeah, because I mean, they did that Dylan and the Dead thing where they were just Bob Dylan's backing band for a tour. They seem to just enjoy playing music. But this features Jerry Garcia, Phil Lesh, Mickey Hart, and Bill Kreutzmann.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about this song, and so I'm listening, and I was just, well, we're going to talk about the music in just a second, but eventually I was just like, wait, who's playing this? And I looked it up, I was like, oh, I see.
It's weird, though, because, I mean, to me, I think vocally and I think musically, I think this sounds exactly like Donovan's Season of the Witch.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
I mean, there's like beats where I'm just like, did I play the wrong song?
No, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like, especially like the beginning when he starts singing, you get that like where you could almost hear that It's Strange wailing. It also sounds a little bit like the Pusher era Steppenwolf to me, but more so the Donovan.
Yeah, no, the Donovan Season of the Witch is a great call. I couldn't piece it together the entire time, but now that you say it, his style is and folks, I mean, let's just say it right up front. It is that like half yelling sort of a knockoff Mick Jagger or a poor man's John Fogerty sort of a deal. It's not bad. It's just not as good as those things.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Season of the Witch, that's a great call. But let's talk about the music. Obviously, you've said it. The Grateful Dead are the backing band, more or less. And I got to admit, this is going to be tough. Musically, I'm into this. This is a type of music I really, really like.
Yeah, it's very loose.
Yeah.
It's just a couple of guys that are messing around. It sounds like there's a couple of very good musicians who are just fucking around and playing a jam, and then David Crosby randomly wanders in and starts muttering about cowboys into a microphone.
Yeah, more wailing about about cowboys, but
that's way more accurate.
Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head, Tim. The music in this song, like if you put less silly lyrics over it, like I really like this song.
Yeah, he's the worst part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, song remains decent despite David Crosby being in it. It's borderline jam band. But I think it goes full jam band. I mean, it's 8.5 minutes. It is 8.5 minutes. You're right. It's hard to argue. I guess where I trip up is, and I should know better, this is an album version of a jam band.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
And I would imagine, Tim, you love this even more than I do, given that you dragged me to so very many jam bands in college.
I don't necessarily know that we should talk about that at all.
Oh, we should definitely talk about that in detail. All the many, many times you made me watch Widespread Panic for hours.
Yeah.
Sober. So sober.
I wasn't, though.
Yeah, that makes sense now.
Molly, which technically not a drug.
More on that later. Okay, so it's jam bandy. It's got this David Crosby wailing over it. It's, as you put it, roughly the same running time as Young Guns 2 in more or less the same content.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the themes. As you can guess, folks, it's about cowboys, kinda.
So this sort of, I think, takes its cues from country music lyrically in that it's supposed to be a story song, and it is the worst story song I think I've ever heard.
It's like a Tarantino, what's the one he did, Hateful Eight? It's sort of that. Like,
Yeah, okay,
here's
you're
a
right.
setting, here's some people, something happens, but you wouldn't necessarily call it a story.
Right. Here's the difference. No Tarantino dialogue. This is
That would be
Crosby
incredible.
dialogue. Crosologue.
Crosalogue. And you're not going to enjoy that.
No.
So let's talk about thematically. Obviously, we said it's about cowboys-ish, but I mean, I'm just going to spoil it right here. It's about, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. 5 people that represent Mr. Crosby's good buddies. We learn about Eli, who is Stephen Stills, Fat Albert, who is, of course, Crosby, Young Billy, who is Neil Young, Raven, who is Miss Rita Coolidge, and Duke, Graham Nash. He wrote a story about his buddies as if they were cowboys.
Which, okay, in his defense, I have some cowboy fanfic, that's
Yeah.
what we call it, that
Involves me.
involves you. It involves me.
Sure.
It involves...
The West.
It does involve the Old West, Garrett. We ride high, we get in gun battles, we sleep out under the stars, we've robbed a bank or two, we've done a heist.
that.
Yeah, no, it's all great stuff, Garrett. We rode to, well, gets a little racist. We go to San Francisco to prevent samurai from reaching our shores. It's not my I'm not
don't
super proud of
elaborate.
it. I'm not super proud of it. My point though, Garrett, is we do some awesome stuff in my cowboy stories because I've written action. There things happen.
Yeah,
this
you have
is just
story.
this is just about a time that Stephen Stills and Graham Nash both met Rita Coolidge and they both wanted to have sex with her, and she picked one of them and then later picked the other one.
Pretty much.
And then they got mad at each other.
But instead, we get a quote unquote story about everything that happens after something really cool and before something else really cool.
Right. Yes, you get a nap.
Yeah, it's the brief moment in between things happening. It's like if you had a movie and then you were like, you know what, they just cut from one scene to the next. I wish they'd just shown us what happened. Like when he went to you never see people going to the bathroom or sleeping in a movie. Why isn't that in there? That's this song.
Garrett, I've seen some of the movies you watch. There's some bathroom stuff. It's
Okay.
gross.
Okay. That's
no,
disgusting.
you're right. This is the equivalent of, you know how like in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, they hadn't figured out yet that when somebody begins walking up a giant flight of stairs, you
Right.
can then end the scene and then begin the next
We'll
scene
all
when they're
figure
at
it out.
top. Right. This is that staircase, and it's not great.
Yeah, all 80 steps are recorded. Let's get into it, Tim. We're dancing around it. We start out, and folks, it's going to be tough for us to interpret anything. This is just a bunch of stuff that happened, apparently. So we'll just get into it, see if we can piece it apart. But first, we set the scene. We hear, and as Tim put it, very much Season of the Witch, me and my good partners, we were riding back to our camp. We were feeling very fine, and the air was clear and slightly damp. Out with the fellas, hanging with the boys, on a ride, setting the scene. Sounds great.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff here. Maybe describe their spurs, their chaps, their hats even. But you're setting the scene, and my head is filling in all of these physical features of these men. So don't worry. But
Not what I was saying, but sure, different perspective. Song continues. We were riding back to have ourselves a party, to celebrate the robbing of the train. We were talking kind of low and lazy about not having to go out soon again. Great. They're criminals, sort of reservoir dogs of the Old West. Just pulled off a heist. You're gonna be okay. Heading back. I love it. Say the fucking words. Heading back from a train robbery. Now, I don't want to nitpick here, Tim. Don't want to do it. It's not what we do here. But just a thought, top of my head, I were writing a cowboy song, literally called Cowboy Song. Maybe, just maybe, write about the train robbery and not afterwards.
yeah, here's the thing. It's not like a movie, right? There's no budget for this. You don't have to, it's not like you can't afford to shoot the train robbery scene. You could sing
Right.
about it all you want. It costs nothing.
Absolutely. That sounds like some costly lyrics.
Yeah, better do a
People-
bottle episode for this song. Fucking idiot.
Song continues. You know, we hadn't been back home 2 hours. We heard a hawk cry out in the night. Oh! And you know that's a signal from young Billy, who's our sentry. He's saying something here ain't exactly right. All right, so sentry, first of all, very specific. Really sets the year. We don't century so much these days. We learn, of course, at the top, young Billy is, of course, Neil Young. Now, Tim, you know this. Listeners might not. Neil Young, the man, prefers to communicate via bird call. So if you're around him and you want to get his attention, stand out in the crowd, hit him with some bird calls, and he's fluent. So you guys can just go back and forth and he'll love it. So just feel free to call at that man.
Yeah, if you see him on the street, screech.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, you and I guess, we don't usually peel back the curtain like this, but Tim and I have several shorthand noises that mean a whole bunch of stuff, but it's just a simple noise. And many of those noises, bird noises.
That's true. What about this one, Garrett?
Yeah, see? That means that was disgusting.
No, don't tell them.
Oh, what about this classic, Tim? Hey, shithead!
I don't think you're...
Put that down and stop doing whatever it is you're doing right now. I don't have time to say all that. Somebody's life might be literally in danger in that moment. You just got to say, hey, shithead. Song continues. So we quick grabbed some of our hardware, stumbled out of our home. In 2 minutes flat, we had found her, an Indian girl, all alone.
Okay, Jesus Christ.
Okay, I have a logistical question. As our chief cowboy correspondent, Tim, do cowboys call their guns hardware?
Frequently, yeah.
Very cool.
But here's the problem. It's can be a little confusing because we call other things hardware too.
What do you mean?
Well, you got a knife. Hardware. You got a saddle. That's hardware.
That's not hardware.
You get that.
It's almost software.
You get that peacock out. Sometimes that's hardware.
When are you getting the peacock out on the range?
Oh, all the time, Garrett.
I don't want to be a cowboy.
You do.
Is that what Curly thought that one thing was? From
don't know what you're
City Slickers?
About. Never seen it.
Fuck you. It's my Godzilla. City Slickers 2. Not 1, 2. The good one. That one thing. We miss you, Palance. We really do. Anyway, so stumbled out of their home and they find an Indian girl all alone. So historically, I got to say, I'm getting a little nervous. It's 1971 and David Crosby. This song might be going somewhere not so great.
Well, yeah, I mean, we should say this. It's 1971 in the music industry.
Or maybe just 1971. Full stop.
That's true.
And Eli said, let's take her back to the cabin. I said, she might be the law. He said, smiling kind of nasty, it ain't too damn likely she'll beat me to the draw. Might be talking about that peacock.
Stephen Stills. Ugh.
Yeah, so Stills wants to keep her like a puppy. Crosby, or Albert, suspects she might be undercover, but he is still pretty cocky. Let's see. Song continues. We were walking back through the darkness. I heard the Duke, he's our dynamiter, say. He said, what's your name, sweet little Indian girl? She said, Raven. And she looked away.
Grand Nash isn't great either.
Her. No. Nobody has great intentions here. Right then, I didn't trust her. No, and I said so. Oh, no. What's a dynamiter? I guess it's probably what it sounds like.
Yeah. So, you know how if you're on a SWAT team, there's one guy whose job it is to line the door with explosives to blow it off of its hinges?
Sure.
It's the guy that carries the bombs.
Yeah, you think they'd have a slightly more professional sounding name than dynamiter. I guess the West.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. There are safes that need exploding on some trains sometimes. I mean, you won't know about it because we're not going to talk about that because that costs extra. But
sure. Yeah, no, we can't be painting that sort of imagination picture. We don't have the budget for that.
Right.
Now, Tim, you probably don't know the answers to this, but listeners might. HeyPodmail@gmail.com. Was nitroglycerin a thing in the Old West? Were they robbing banks with the nitro? Because I saw a movie where they did that. I think it had Matthew McConaughey, Juliana Margulies, Fabulous Baker Boys. You seen this?
No.
That's all right. Listeners, write in. HeyPodmail@gmail.com. Was that real? Is that even a movie? Did I make that up entirely? I don't know.
It's unclear. So it was a thing in the Old West. However, it was mostly used for angina at the time.
Wait, used for what?
Angina.
Oh, angina.
Angina, yes.
Is that what you said?
Angina.
What's angina?
It's the same thing as angina, but we say it that way so that it doesn't draw comparisons to vagina and make people giggle. We say
Is
angina.
This true? Do you say 100%?
Angina? Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
They aluminiumed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it turns out Nash also wants this girl. Assumingly, Eli and Nash are going to have some issues together. So now Eli, he's our fastest gunner. He's kind of mean and young from the South. He said, Fat Albert, you're getting kind of old and weird now. You better give your 12-gauge shotgun right out. And I did. Okay. So I don't understand why Eli is suddenly suspicious.
Well, he's the fastest gunner, so I assume he makes it his business to be suspicious of everyone.
I see. Also, he knows that Fat Albert's really dropping the ball lately, so he's just like, are you riding without your goddamn shotgun out? What, are you going to take it out once the bullets start? No, you're going to fucking fall over like you did last time. Get your shotgun out, you stupid fuck.
Right.
Boy, this Fat Albert guy seems like a real pain in the ass.
Now,
Now, Eli and the Duke, they got down to it. They each wanted the Indian girl for their own. But when they finally got around to asking her, she said she'd come to take young Billy home.
Now, this, I think, is probably a huge CSNY problem, right?
Yeah.
Stephen Stills and Graham Nash are competing over ladies. David Crosby is just kind of hanging back, and really everyone just wants to spend time with Neil Young.
Well, sure. That's the problem with having 4 people in your band.
No, that's the problem with having Neil Young in your bands.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But if you're David Crosby, you got to get through Young, Nash, Stills, and then maybe you get some groupie action if the other 3 are bored or pass up for whatever reason. Or potentially you're getting sloppy fourths.
Well, yeah, and he's not helping himself with that appearance.
Trying to look like homeless Mario?
I was going to say worse Ron Jeremy.
Oh, I was going to say Funhouse Mirror Gallagher.
These are all funny references.
Yeah, these are good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, song continues. Eli said he'd kill young Billy. He'd kill the Duke and probably me too, yeah. The Indian girl, she said, go ahead now, do it. I said stop it, and she bit my thumb nearly clean through.
It happens.
It takes a turn into that Tarantino movie fairly quickly. We're all just hanging out at the cabin, having a good time, debating who's going to have sex with this random Indian girl, and suddenly we're biting off thumbs.
Yes.
Okay. I could see Walton Goggins playing young Billy.
Yeah, because Rita Coolidge would definitely want to go with him.
Yeah.
He's Walton Goggins.
Always got to go for Goggins. Yeah. Walton goddamn Goggins. Anyway, song continues, and when they finally started to break down the door, I smeared my face up with the blood from my thumb. I laid down on the floor and played real good possum. You know I'm crazy, but I ain't real dumb. What? I sort of follow. Scuffle inside. Raven bites his thumb off because she's like, I either want Stills or Nash, but I definitely don't want you, Crosby. Bite that thumb. Then there's somebody outside the door. They come rushing in, and he covers his face with blood and lies on the ground.
Yeah, I assume the people from the train robbery.
Okay. Song wraps up. Final verse. How's it gonna end? Did it really start? Nobody knows. Now I'm dying here in Albuquerque. I must be the sorriest sight you ever saw. You know the reason? I'm the only man here to tell it. You know that Indian girl? She wasn't an Indian. She was the law.
Oh, twist.
Big twist. But now he's dying here in Albuquerque.
Yes, but here's the other thing. If you take the reading that this is about the band, it seems to be that he's accusing Rita Coolidge of Yoko Onoing Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, right? Because she intentionally came in to cause strife.
Well, maybe the law is a metaphor for somebody who's just like, so you guys just sit around and do drugs all day?
Oh, she's a fucking narc.
Maybe not a full-on narc, but maybe she's just like, maybe we could go like on a hike in Runyon or, take in a movie.
Fucking narcs.
Hey, Tim, you want to go hiking? Narc! Huh?
Yeah. Absolutely. I stand by that.
One of us is wrong. So when he says now I'm dying here in Albuquerque, is he in jail? Is he on the floor of the cabin? Was everybody gunned down? Any idea what happened?
I assume that everyone was gunned down. The gunners left with the Indian girl who was the law. And he pops up and he's like, oh, I'm fine. This is awesome. Like some sort of Steve Buscemi. Like some sort of, Jesus Christ. Like some sort of Steve Buscemi at the end of Reservoir Dogs. Spoilers. But then, unfortunately, there's an artery in his thumb and he is getting woozy.
Wow. What a stupid way to die.
Yep. What a
I thought you were
stupid
going to say he
song
popped
to
up
write.
and was like, I'm fine. I'm completely fine. Would you hear something in that cabin? Ah, fuck. The only other thing I had written for the song, Tim, is as it fades out, the music stops, and that's when you realize that the claps you've been hearing the entire time are live in studio. It's just you don't see that anymore ever. And I gotta say, like, musically, I really enjoy this song. Like, I had no problem listening to it over and over again.
Yep.
It's just written by a child.
Yeah. It's written by a guy who thought he had a visual effects budget.
For music. There is, of course, no music video, so that's going to bring us to how did it do? So, Timmy, how'd this thing do?
Well, Garrett, I have no idea because this was not a single. However, the album hit number 12 on 1971's equivalent of the Billboard 200. Notably, though, the Catholic Church, huge fan of this album. In 2010, Vatican City newspaper L'Osservatore Romano released a list of the greatest ever albums and listed If I Could Only Remember My Name as the number 2 album ever, right between Revolver and Dark Side of the Moon. This is Pope approved. He also likes Thriller, Graceland, Achtung Baby, and Santana's Supernatural.
What?
Yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing that happened in 2010.
Oh, and that was Nazi Pope, right?
Yes, I believe so.
That's tough.
I get the Achtung Baby one.
Yeah, okay. Stupid. Okay, well, what did people think of it?
Well, Garrett, I have some really good news for you. I have a particularly insane Robert Christgau review this week.
That is a terrifying statement.
Yeah, this one's ridiculous. Garrett, let's play the Robert Christgau game. The Robert Christgau game. This disgraceful performance inspires the first consumer guide competition, The Test. Rename David Crosby. He won't know the difference. The prize, one Birds LP of your choice. He ought to know the difference. The catch, you have to beat my entries, which are Rocky Muzak, Roger Crosby, Vaughn Monroe. Garrett Harvey.
What?
What did the lunatic that wrote that grade this album as?
I mean, my gut it sounded overwhelmingly negative. If I'm interpreting my Christgau right, but there's no interpreting that, man. I'm going to go C+.
D-. Robert Christgau fucking hates this.
For once, his words kind of sort of pointed towards his feeling.
Until he started making up new names for David Crosby, he gave us 3 options. Robert Muzak, Roger Crosby, that one's particularly lazy, and Vaughn Monroe. Are they jokes? Are these references to something?
Are they people?
I don't know. What is this? He's so crazy.
God damn. Robert Christgau, you never disappoint. Okay, great review, Tim. Any others?
Well, there are no good Amazon comments. There's a few YouTube comments. The vast majority of them are R.I.P. David Crosby. Here's a couple, though. This is by Ekim from 2 weeks ago. You know I'm crazy, but I ain't real dumb. Love that line. Listening from Frankfurt, Germany in 1971, U.S. Army.
Oh.
But you're not, though. You're not, because you're commenting on YouTube.
I don't want to get too personal, Tim, but was your dad in Frankfurt, Germany in 1971?
No, earlier than that, and not in Frankfurt.
Not there.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Wise Owl Tex. Excuse me, Wise Owl Tex, aka Wissy Owl Tex.
Way to sound it out.
I am stupid. David Crosby is a national treasure. He is also quite the character.
That's one way of putting it.
Michael D'Amico said, played this for my older bro and his wife at the time. He said, cool. She was like, this is the best he can do. Did not respect them after that. This was when it was first released.
Why would you write that down?
I don't know. One more, Garrett. Marty McDonald from 2 weeks ago. R.I.P. David. I will see you in heaven.
I wouldn't bet on it.
For neither of you.
Yeah, I'll take the over-under on that. There's no fucking way.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, here's the thing. David Crosby, look, let's say some nice things about David Crosby.
Yeah.
I like about 5 to 10 of the songs that David Crosby has written. I like
20 songs David Crosby performs on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he added a lot to the Byrds and CSNY. I enjoy him as a musician. I enjoy him as a backing singer. I enjoy him as a harmonist, if that's the word. I think he works well in the confines of groups. He should probably be more of a supporting player to Neil Young or Stephen Stills, but if he stays in that lane, he really adds a lot to the mix.
Agreed.
And here's the thing, if you ever need a handgun, David Crosby had a handgun on him. Here's another thing, if you ever needed heroin, probably also had heroin. Don't walk in front of his car, though.
No, absolutely not. that thing was just a magnet for people.
Yes.
Good stuff. Who is this for?
I think this is for...
I think it's for you.
Yeah. You know what? This song might be for me. I don't like it. I don't want it, but it might be designed specifically for me. A little cowboy vignette for me. It kind of feels like the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It feels like a vignette from that.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing really happens, but it's entertaining enough.
Yeah.
Although that movie's way better than this song.
Oh, sure.
Alrighty, that brings us to final thoughts. Is there anything we haven't said about this? The only thing I haven't said is we hit on how ridiculous this is. It's not a great song, and it's making up names for all your buddies is kind of silly, and maybe it's something you do in the studio, but you don't actually commit it to tape. But I got thinking, Tim. Now, you and I were in a unique position in college where we had a front row seat to, I don't want to say his name, I don't want people to fuck with him, but remember BP, who is now in a very much real, functioning, touring rock band?
I do.
Yeah, you and I knew him when he was like 17. So to see him like be a rock guy, occasionally, for you and I, and especially while we were in college together, like routinely we would mock him and be like, no, we're not going to watch that. We're not going to help you do that. You look ridiculous. Why are you wearing leather pants?
He still looks ridiculous and wears leather pants, but I love it.
Right, but my point is that to everybody watching him step on stage, that's what he should look like. But to you and I, we're like, we know that kid. He looks BP, you look ridiculous. Same thing here. David Crosby, at the end of the day, is, I don't want to be mean, is David Crosby. So, like, of course he wrote a song where he renamed all his friends and they were cowboys. Like, this is not surprising. This man had a lifelong heroin addiction.
Yeah, and gun addiction. And hitting people with his car addiction.
Well, I don't know if that was an addiction. He was on a lot of cocaine.
He doesn't seem to have been able to stop.
Point taken. Good stuff. Anything else you want to say before we ask the big question?
No.
Then here it goes. Timmy, after an entire episode and week with Cowboy Song, do you hate this song?
No. I met the lyrics. I like the music. Kind of what we've said already. What about you, friend? Do you hate this song?
Yeah, right there with it. I might enjoy it a little bit more after having talked about it with you.
All right. Well, I kind of enjoy the story more, I think, because we fleshed it out a little bit more on our own.
Yeah. I mean, it was in there. It was in the text. We just had to tease it out.
Yes.
All right. That brings us to listener mail. Timmy, you want to go first? You want me to?
Well, of course, I want to go first, Garrett.
All right.
This is from Jen on Facebook because we found the password. Find the password. Fucked me.
It was in our saved passwords.
It sure was. Never thought to check there. This is from Jen. She says, greetings from your friendly neighborhood elder goths. We were recently enjoying your extended spooky season, and I thought perhaps I could reach beyond the veil, shed some darkness on the matter of what is an elder goth, and provide you with an entertaining example that, yes, involves your podcast. Elder goth is way past the it's just a phase. It's past, she's going to art school. It's past the point where it has no legitimate right to continue to go on, and yet it persists, like the undead. Opinions vary, but it's said the age qualification to be an elder goth is anywhere between 30 to 50 years of human age, and despite what may outwardly appear to be taking ourselves way too seriously, we are a pretty jovial, self-aware brood, and our unique views on life and death have actually shown us to be more well-adjusted to the realities of growing old and dying than the rest of the general population. And then she provides a link to back this up, which is weird.
I was going to ask what study she was referencing. I apologize.
Yep. We as goths often do have to do regular people things. Yes, when you're 16, this means working at Smoothie King in your vinyl pants and platform shoes, but when you're an elder goth, you have to do things like buy a house. So my husband, brother, and I decided to embark on this adulting adventure at the most challenging time and place possible. At the height of the housing market craze, in the most densely populated state in the country, at a time when coronavirus was really working to make things difficult for everyone. I grew up with hippie parents who let me look however I please, but they also let me know that it was important to conform to the norm during events like job interviews, court appearances, etc. We assumed that house hunting was one of these times. We were already going to be walking around strangers' houses in a time when breathing a stranger's air was regarded as taboo. And we know the other offers we were going up against were going to be stiff. So maybe not looking like we were going to make animal sacrifices in the room that was the nursery for your firstborn would be a wise choice.
Good call.
Our first day of house hunting arrives. We all put on our adulting costumes and meet in the living room, and all burst into laughter. I had made sure to wear my glasses because people with glasses are considered less threatening, and put on some color, deep plums and rusty oranges, but the best you could perceive me was eccentric art teacher. And lo and behold, somehow unplanned, my brother and husband had on matching outfits of a plaid shirt tucked into jeans and sneakers that looked like they had never been worn. Anyway, two skinny lumberjacks and an art teacher walk into a house. This is clearly the setup for a bad joke. And did I mention that my brother was carrying a purse like a bag containing a live cat? We rescue cats with special needs, and this one can't go a day on his own. We were clearly uncomfortable in these costumes. Our realtor had no clue what to do with us or how to understand us. This led to us seeing tons of houses and spending long hours on the road with our special needs cat yelling every mile of the trip. Thankfully, we had your podcast to keep us laughing through it all. It took about a year of looking, but we finally did find a realtor who could vibe with us in a perfect place to call home. And anytime we have a long car ride ahead, we still turn to you guys for some laughs. Thanks for all you do. I included some photos for context so you can see what elder goths in their 40s look like. My brother is goth, so he refused to be photographed, so here's some photos of me and my husband. And I will say, 100% these are elder goths. Spookily, your new elder goth friends. And then here's the best part. Because this was Facebook and we had lost the password, this sent out a automatic message that said, "Hi, thanks for contacting us. We've received your message and appreciate you reaching out." So Jen, I apologize for the ridiculously generic response you got. This was a great email/Facebook post. Thank you so much for the pictures and the science and the weird study.
Yeah, she gets it. Really great job. Everything about that email is awesome. Although, a couple things stood out. One, she said human years.
Right. Not goth years. They're different.
Jen, write in, hatepodmail@gmail.com. What did Tim just say? Two. Oh, I forgot two. One was so alarming. What was the other thing that stood out to me?
Here's my request. Buy cowboy accoutrement. Dress as a goth cowboy. I want to see what that looks like. Send us some pictures, Jen.
Yeah, Jen, you don't realize how many questions I have about this. Are there things like that? Like where like I'm feeling, so like some well, I dress like a homeless person, but sometimes people want to wear like a vest, I guess. I'm not doing a great job here, but do people do that? Like Western up their goth? Or like, I'm going to be a little more emo goth, or I want to be like hipster goth. Are there subsections of goth? Write in. I want to know. Also, did you, your brother, and your husband buy a house together? Did I hear that right? What are you guys doing? What's that about?
I assume the brother just came to look, but if not, fun living condition. Write in about that.
Yeah, I want to understand how that's working. Who paid for what? Do you guys like split the mortgage? How do you do your taxes? Shut up, Tim. I have more questions. Everything about Jen is fascinating. Jen, you're my favorite listener. I hope you hear this in a timely manner.
Jen, thanks for contacting us. We have received your message and appreciate you reaching out.
Accurate.
Garrett, beat that, friend.
Cannot. You know, man, once in a while, it's happened enough now that I know it's not a fucking accident. When you've got a fucking banger like that, maybe let me go first.
Absolutely not.
You're such a cunt. My email, which is a good email, by the way. I don't want this person to feel bad. Maybe I shouldn't say their name now. It's a good email. Yours is just a fucking... Anyway, this email is from Polly. And Polly writes... Oh, sorry. The title is Band Dating. Howdy, fellas. After a recent interaction, I'm wondering, what's the worst socially acceptable band to say that you're into on a date? Weezer springs to mind for me, as I recently went on a quasi-date and he wore a goddamn Weezer shirt. But I'm interested in other poor choices. More interesting if they're actually good bands. Also, could I get the audio file from your Gary Puckett episode? I want to use the, quote, "Welcome to the 7th layer of hell, you're now the mayor" bit. I don't know what that means. But yeah, actually, yes, you can. You can actually download it right now. If you Google literally the title of the episode, .mp3, you will find the download link.
If you want to download the episodes, type in hatepod.libsyn.com/website.
I guess you could do that.
They're all
there.
Yes.
They're all there.
You can download them, I believe.
Yeah, you can. Oh, fine, you can do Tim's thing. Anyway, back to my great email. Condolences for Gino's recent arrest. Who knew they were still looking for fascist officers? Good news on that front. Total misunderstanding. Once they realized he was just simply a sympathizer and wished he was an officer, they let him go. They actually felt bad for him.
I feel like there should still be some consequences. Don't sympathize.
I mean, it's socially unnerving, but I don't think we can do anything about it. It's America. Now, Tim, I want to go back to the initial question of the email. First, let's focus in on the more poignant part of it. What is the worst band shirt? And I'm gonna make it band shirt because listen, I'm gonna be honest. I can't tell you how many dates I've been on with women where we get talking about music, and then when they list the things they like, I want to scream. But that's fine. It's completely okay to like things that I don't like. I can even date a person that likes music and movies that's different than me. I'd prefer not to, but I can.
I'm gonna say this. It's more of an album shirt than a band shirt. No effects heavy petting zoo.
Oh, yeah, that's a deal breaker. But I'm going to say this. I'm going to have that date. If she shows up in like a baby tee with that on the front, I got to know what's happening there. Like, where did you get that? Did you make it yourself?
I'm concerned it's bestiality.
Well, it's not Yeah, I guess I didn't consider that might be where that yellow brick road leads. And that's bad. Do you know who Mr. Hands is? I gotta go. Oh, goodness. Don't Google Mr. Hands. So, yeah, okay. If a girl shows up in a Weezer shirt, I'm okay with that. I can handle that. I'm not sure there is a band that I would just be like, ugh, that I just can't. Maybe like Lil Uzi Vert.
It depends. So if you're going to go as you like pepper that into your conversation, I'm back in. That's funny.
Wait, what? That's not how I thought that was going to end. So I just told my mom, look, I'm an adult. I'm going to get the car myself. I don't care if it has a higher interest rate. I need to do this on my own.
Yeah, super in.
So I just told the valet, fine, fucking keep the car. I don't care. I'm calling the police. Skirt.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Interesting. Okay. But what if it's just the shirt? Who's our old friend with the rainbow hair?
Oh, no. 6699?
Yeah. Is that a deal breaker? She shows up wearing that shirt? Or are you just like, I'm out?
I'm going to ask if she has the rainbow grill. If so, back in. I'm a complicated
I don't understand
person.
You at all.
Yeah.
You are so complicated. Okay, so then they also went on to say, I'm interested in other poor choices. Are there other deal breakers for you? What if everything about her is perfect and so everybody can play at home? Picture your perfect significant other, but they've made a poor choice. Face tattoo. Could you get over a face tattoo? Obviously, it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Let's make it neck tattoo. Could you get over a neck tattoo?
Again, depends what it is. Much easier to get over a neck tattoo than a face tattoo, but I think, man.
What about a neck tattoo of a face?
Back in. Is it my face? What if she shows up?
Met.
Okay, let's say this. You meet somebody on an internet dating site, so she could download a picture of you. She shows up. Maybe she says, I can't go on a date for like a week. I got to do a thing, but then I'm all in. And you show up, and that week was the time it took for the tattoo of your face on her neck to heal.
Photorealistic tattoo.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm going on the date. I'm skeptical. Skeptical hippo eyes across the board, but I am going on that date. Now, Tim, let me pose to you. Same exact scenario. When she gets there, tattoo of my face on her neck.
Garrett, you're not going to believe this. No, I'm not going to say it, but trust me, that would not be a deal breaker for me.
Well, it's funny you should say that, Tim, because I've got a surprise for you. Tom, could you come here? Show Tim your neck.
Guess I'm dating Tom. God damn it.
It was his idea, not mine. Yeah, see, neck tattoo's a little tough. Actually, you know what? I think I could have no problem with a neck tattoo. Yeah, you know, if it's a swastika, I do. But let's assume it's nothing offensive. We'll just say a heart. I can't be mad at a heart. I could deal with that. But face is tough. That shows some poor decision making.
Yeah. Unless, let's say you've got you know how people used to get a mustache tattooed on their finger like an asshole?
Yeah.
What if you got that exact same mustache tattooed on your face? Yeah, especially if it's a lady.
Yeah.
I don't know why. That's so funny.
Yeah, it should be a deal breaker, but I'd be fine with it. That's the one face tattoo I'll allow. Weird. All right, we have to move on. Good stuff. Listeners, write in heypodmail@gmail.com. Let us know, what's a deal breaker for you? It can be a band. It can be a t-shirt. It can be a face tattoo. It could be that they're just Sean William Scott. I don't know. Anyway, that brings us to music news of the weird. Tim, you want to go first or you want me to?
I mean, I'm sure I want to go first, probably, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a Tim move.
It does.
Music news of the weird.
In Axl Rose news, Axl Rose is currently suing the online Texas store. It's run by a florist in Jersey Village, right next to my mom's old house, for some pretty obvious reasons, because that florist decided to also sell guns and is going by, you guessed it, Guns N' Roses. Now, the papers state that despite a cease and desist letter in 2019, Axl is accusing them of intentionally trading on GNR's goodwill, prestige, and fame without their approval, license, or consent. And then he goes on to say it's particularly damaging to GNR given the nature of the defendant's business, which again is flowers and guns. And they quite reasonably do not want to be associated with the defendant, a firearms and weapons dealer. Furthermore, they espouse political views related to the regulation and control of firearms and weapons on the website that may be polarizing to many U.S. customers or consumers. David Clark, the attorney for the store, said there's no confusion between the store and the band. That's ridiculous. He said there's never been any confusion. There's no evidence of confusion. This is an attempt to run up the costs and burn us out. Our client sells metal safes for guns and flowers. I don't know what that means. Our client sells metal safes for guns and flowers and have a one-stop website, and absolutely no one is confused. No one thinks we're the band or there is some affiliation. We will be fighting back. Now, this is, of course, the same Guns N' Roses whose first song after Chinese Democracy, Rock the Rock, featured Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, which debuted in an episode of New Looney Tunes. The track Rock the Rock was about 2 minutes long, and it was in a Looney Tunes episode, Armageddon Outta Here Part 2, and it features a cartoon Axl Rose, dressed like Axl Rose, singing with Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, and together, the power of their performance diverts an asteroid from a collision with Earth. Pretty
What does
cool.
that have to do with this store?
Nothing, I just felt like mentioning it since we were on the
in
subject.
case anybody didn't know which Guns N' Roses we were talking
In
about.
case they didn't remember who Guns N' Roses were, it was that guy. It was the guys from the new Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes, right. The new Looney Tunes, the good one.
Right. Garrett, what other cartoon, Armageddon, flowers news do you have? I'll accept any of these things. Even music news, if you have music news.
That's quite enough. I do want to say, I'm not entirely sure that you can sue somebody if they literally sell Guns N' Roses.
Agreed. I also don't know.
Like, how do you argue that anybody on the planet walks into that store and expects Slash to be standing there?
Well, of course, I think Axl Rose would argue, why would you expect Slash to be standing there? It's Guns N' Roses.
Well, sure. But he's been part of the band again in
That's
the
true.
latest incarnation.
You know, they have the second highest grossing tour ever.
What?
Yeah, it's like close to $600 million. Ridiculous.
Like, is that Lifetime or is that like one tour?
One tour. It was a big tour. Not as big as a U2 tour, but anyway, news.
Oh, yeah. News. Me. Go. Tim, good news. Good news, Gino. Slipknot's back with a surprise new single titled Bone Church. Quote, "This one's for the fans. A further deeper vision into Slipknot's history, which is still being written." Less than a half a year after Slipknot released The End, so far, one of Rolling Stone's 15 best metal albums of 2022, clearly a typo, the band is back with a new standalone single, as I mentioned, titled Bone Church. Bone Church! A track that has been in the works for allegedly almost a decade. Tim, I didn't know that The End so far had been released, and I'm certainly surprised to hear about this Bone Church.
I love your Randy Savage thing. Here's the fun thing about Slipknot, listeners. Picture a mid-period Bob Dylan singing all the songs, and it makes it way funnier because it actually works really well in the cadence. So, for example, they've got a song called Wait and Bleed that goes, "Feel the hate rise up in me, kneel down and clear the stone of leaves, I wander out where you can't see, inside my shell, I wait and bleed." It works really well in the Dylan-y cadence.
That might make me go and read some Slipknot. Probably not, but go ahead and add to the list, Gino, The End so far and Bone Church.
"Everything in 3D blasphemy. My eyes are red and gold. I can't control my shakes."
That actually just sounds like a Dylan song.
Is it a dream or a memory?
Tim, what other music do you have?
Well, before I go, I would like to just say you heard it here first, folks. Dylan, Slipknot, pretty much the same thing. Heard it from both of us. Garrett, in old men fighting news this week, Roger Waters and David Gilmour don't much care for each other. Polly Sampson, wife of David Gilmour, accused Roger Waters of being, and I'm quoting here, anti-Semitic to your rotten core, a Putin apologist, and a lying, thieving, hypocritical, tax-avoiding, lip-syncing, misogynistic, sick with envy, megalomaniac.
Jesus.
It's not entirely clear, like, what the specific thing for that was, but I guess he doesn't care for Israel's treatment of Palestinians and accused the Israelis of genocide. He boycotts Israel stuff. And also he defended Vladimir Putin and criticized Zelensky and called Biden a war criminal of the war in Ukraine. But this all leads me to a very important question, Garrett. Why do we care what either of these guys think on any non-music related topic in 2023? And why did I bother to read this news story?
That is a good question. One for the ages, even. Gino, do you have an answer for that? He is shaking his head no. You've stumped us.
Fair enough. Garrett, what other old man news do you have?
Oh, I do have old man news. I guess I'll read it. Johnny Rotten and his band, quote unquote, Public Image Limited, have failed in their bid to represent...
Oh, you really should have stopped with have failed. Go on, sorry.
In their bid to represent Ireland at this year's Eurovision Song Contest. On Friday,
that would have been great.
Yeah.
Ireland.
On Friday.
Fuck you.
We didn't want to waste it. On Friday, the 6 finalists performed their respective entries on Irish television, and voters opted to go into Eurovision's battle with Wild Youth's We Are One. Hawaii finished 4th out of the 6 contenders. That was, I guess, the song they went with, Hawaii. So I guess another L for Johnny Rotten. Keep him coming, that guy's kind of a prick.
Yeah, agreed.
Tim, what Eurovision news do you have?
I have no news anymore, including Eurovision news. I am out of news.
Couple of quick hits. Good news for R. Kelly.
Oh, damn it. Bad news for the rest of us.
Well, just let me finish. Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox announced on Monday that her office is dropping the pending sexual assault and abuse case against disgraced singer and convicted felon R. Kelly, but the why is kind of a bummer if your name is R. Kelly. Following the federal convictions against him in New York and Chicago, Kelly is already serving 30 years for just the New York charges and is expected to serve several additional decades once sentencing takes place in Chicago next month. Basically, what Miss Kim Fox of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office said is, he's so fucked, it's not even worth our time.
Fair enough.
And my final story, Tim, this is more of a scheme. I recently learned that for the first time ever, poetry will be getting its own Grammy category thanks to a guy named Mr. Jay Ivey, whom not only has been rallying and cheerleading for this for many, many years, he is also a nominee this year, and I suspect he won. So, you can probably guess where I'm going with this. I think we have a new goal. Clearly, I'm a gifted poet from a very young age. I could win this thing. You and me.
You should at the very least enter the competition.
I feel like once a year I enter one of my high school poems.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you got to get nominated. Do you have to?
I'm an Academy member.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Really? How have you never told me this?
You make fun of the Grammys quite a bit, and I kind of felt self-conscious about it.
And you should. You guys do a terrible job each year. And I will be mocking it by getting my own Grammy. Good stuff. That brings us to, well, actually, some very sad news. Listeners, if you're still listening, I hope you are. And viewers, some of you have found the feed. Find the feed. Pay attention. There'll be no new episode next week. I'm going skiing and Tim isn't. So I assume he won't release anything. If he does, that would be fascinating. Maybe don't listen, but maybe. I don't think he will. So no episode next week.
I don't know how to upload things.
Yeah, that's quite literally the biggest obstacle.
I've recorded so many solo casts. No idea how to upload them.
Oh, so no episode next week. Don't worry, we'll be back. We're just taking a week off. I'm going skiing. Tim's going, well, nowhere. He's just going to be here. I don't know what the fuck you're going to do.
I'll be recording an episode no one hears.
Can I hear it?
No, not unless you'll upload it for me.
Oh, no. Okay. But when we come back, Tim, what album will we be talking about and having had listened to for an entire, probably 2 weeks?
We will be listening to Alabama's album, Roll On, country music.
Tim, do you know really anything about this aside from there being some pretty ridiculous sounding songs and a cover that's not promising?
I know the song, if you're going to play in Texas, you have to have a fiddle in the band. I believe that's on this album. Not 100% sure.
Yeah, that made an appearance at every school dance in Texas. My God. Anyway, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. If you can, rate, review, subscribe, follow, whatever the word is for your podcast platform, do it. We don't ask for much, at least not yet. Someday we will. But until then, that's all we ask for. We need the algorithms to know that you listen and you like it and you want other people to like it. And so let them know. You can also reach out to us, and my God, we want you to. hatepodmail@gmail.com, or you can go to hatepod.com, click on Contact Us in the upper left-hand corner if you want to be anonymous. And hey, you may need to be, because we still are taking submissions of your dark secrets. So if you have a dark secret and you don't want anyone to know who you are, then you could type in any old email address, ideally make it a nonsense one, and reveal your dark secrets for us to read on the show. Or not, just say, don't read my dark secret on the episode. It'll just be for Tim and I. You'll know that there's two complete strangers on this earth that know your dark secret, but we have no idea who you are. How fun is that? Very. All right.
Some of you have sent us dark secrets, and they are dark secrets.
They're so dark. One of them, I don't know how he kept secret. Anyway,
well, yeah.
We said we wouldn't read it. I just don't know how you get everything unoranged that fast. Anyway, I know. Anyway, so we're going to wrap it up here. You can find us on Instagram. That's HatePod. Twitter's Album HatePod. I'm G Harvey Tweets. And hey, I want you to reach out. I want to hear from you. Let me know what's going on. We'll have a conversation. Movies, music, books, what have you. The news. Let's get to know each other. Let's see. I think that's about it. We got subreddits. We got Discord servers. If you want to find us, we're on all the things that the internet has, except for TikTok. Maybe someday, but probably not. For Why I Hate This Album, I have been one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I have been the other, Timothy P. Richardson. And on October 1st, 2016, Garrett
official.
Van Cortlandt Harvey said, I guess I have underestimated how afraid I am of pelicans.
Absolutely. You could fit a person in there, or at least enough of a face to suffocate you.
And it's happening all over this great country of ours.
Stop pelican deaths today.
There's cowboys running through my dreams. Nothing's quite the way it seems. I joined the Navy, got kicked out in a week. My facial features aren't distinct. Try to find some meaning in these songs. The genius is a genius, got it wrong. No, it's a lobster murder sex thing. It's the bleaching of the rear. A full assault on both your ears. The riffs are too repetitive. The lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides. The cover art's a mess. Listen to it for a week. Now that week has passed. It's the Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.